Look at Article 2 of the United States Constitution. This creates, of course, the chief executive, the second branch of government. We looked at Article 1 last time, and it lays out all the elaborate powers of Congress. First thing you notice when you just look at Article 1, what first comes to mind? Yeah, it's much shorter than Article 1, right? It's probably about half the length. Not as much attention devoted to the presidency. Also, too, I think you kind of see why that is if you look at the beginning of Article 2 and compare it to the beginning of Article 1. Article 1 says what? All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States. Meaning, all these powers we're going to list here, these enumerated powers, remember that term, enumerated powers, shall be vested in a Congress, and then it lists all the powers. How does Article 2 begin? The executive power, generally understood, right, shall be vested in a president of the United States. What the founders did here was sort of go all the way back to the famous book from the Renaissance, The Prince. Anyone read that before? The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, this Renaissance philosopher, who wrote this handbook on how to be a successful tyrant. How to be bad and get away with it, right? How to advance yourself at all costs. And they sort of took that princely image and enshrined it in the Constitution. Right? We're going to use the prince for the public good. We're going to tame the prince, as Harvey Mansfield put it in that famous book on the presidency that he wrote. So that's the idea. The executive power, generally understood, is sort of extracted out of a king and put into this office of the presidency. He shall hold his office for how many years? 4. Right. 4-year term. He's re-eligible. He can be re-elected as many times as he wants until 1941. 1951. There was an amendment to the Constitution that said, nope, 2 terms and that's it. And that's the end. What else? It lays out the election of the president. How do we elect presidents? Through the Electoral College, right. We vote for them through a popular vote, but who really determines the outcome of the presidential election? It's the Electoral College. States sort of choose the people who will choose the president for us. And so you can think of the Electoral College as like a third house of Congress that pops into existence for one reason: to elect the president and then to disappear. And you don't see it again for 4 more years. What else? Congress may determine time choosing electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. So we have one election day, right? Of course, what is it now? November 2nd, every 4 years, right? It includes, all the congressional elections and all the gubernatorial elections and all the assembly elections in the states and things like that. No person except a natural-born citizen of the United States, at the time of the adoption of this Constitution, shall be eligible for the office of president. Why was it so important that presidents be born here? Because they didn't want the possibility of presidents selling out the nation to foreign kings or things like that. That sort of thing happened all the time in Europe. They said, we're not going to have that problem. All presidents will be born in the United States, period. President shall at stated times receive for his services a compensation, which shall neither be increased nor diminished during the period for which he shall have been elected. He gets paid, he gets a salary.
How much?
It's roughly about $600,000 a year. I think about 650, something like that. It's gone up gradually over the years, but a lot of times we get presidents who could make a lot more in the private sector. They don't necessarily need to be presidents. George W. Bush could make a whole lot more in his oil money, right, than he could being president. Bill Clinton in his private law practice could have made more. So it's not about the money for these guys. The money is just there to sustain them. It is it's a handsome salary, no question, but it's not as much as many of them could be making. Section 2, though, some of the powers. Back up the paragraph before. Before he enter the execution of the office, he shall take the following oath. This is the only oath stated in the Constitution. And this is the model oath for all officials in the executive and all congressmen, all the way down to privates in the military. Everyone takes more or less the same oath. And it says what? I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office, whatever the office is, but here it's President of the United States, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the fatherland, the homeland? No, what is it?
Constitution.
The Constitution, yeah. That he will be devoted entirely to that document.